Okay, sir, I think it's okay to continue.
It's now okay to continue, sir. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I think I'll go back to, okay, wait, hold on. Um, resume share. Wait, hold on. Where's my PowerPoint? Can you see my PowerPoint, sir? Is it on the screen?
Yes, sir, it's on screen.
Oh, actually, okay, this one in our teaching context, right?
Yes, po.
Okay, actually, we finished this already. So, um, hey guys, sorry for the interruption. Something happened. We don't know. There's a technological glitch. But anyway, let us go back to my presentation. And thank you so much for your patience. So, applying critical thinking and critical literacy, how do we do that then in our own context, right? So, we need to ask these questions, and perhaps we have to reflect on these questions. One is, how do we create a more just and equitable, flexible learning environments, right? So I think this is a very important question because, again, not everybody has equal access. We do realize that some students are more privileged than others, right? Just like that's actually the reality of our students. And the second question is, how do we make sure that students coming from low-income families have equal access to learning materials? And I know that some schools have adopted various ways to actually address this concern, but then again, sometimes the options are not very flexible, right? So I think the challenge here is to open and be more welcoming to flexibility, right? And the third is, how do we create a grading system that is fair, regardless of the modalities through which students demonstrate their learning? And the question there is, do we grade students better if they choose the synchronous over the asynchronous mode? Because sometimes, it's actually quite easy to be impressed by students who are able to demonstrate their learning through the use of technology. What about the students who actually only use their books, or perhaps a low-tech way to demonstrate their learning? Okay, so I hope that like students who don't have much will actually be given much affordances in a flexible learning environments. All right, so these are some of the ways to which other teachers or some teachers in other parts of the world engage critically in their work, but I would say that this is coming from a critical pedagogy perspective. Like for instance, in Benesh, what she did in Australia was to engage her students in dialogic pedagogy on LGBTQ issues. Hammond also exposed her students to race and discrimination, and they had a dialogue about it in her class. Lynn also focused on incorporating critical agenda in the teacher education curriculum in Hong Kong. And Luke and Lynn also did a study on criticality, and they found out this is a very important finding. They found out that students are able to express their critical ideas better when they're expressing it in their first language compared to doing it in their second language. And the implication there is, it doesn't mean that the students did not learn anything when they're not able to express it in English or in the target language, right? And perhaps that actually applies to our own context. Sometimes we think that our students did not learn anything, but perhaps it's not about learning, it's actually a linguistic problem, right? So we have to think about these things. And To also did critical reading materials in his class in Japan. Okay, so I would say that the current situation invites us, all of us teachers, to reimagine or rethink conventional ways of doing things in higher education, whether we like it or not. Before, I think we've used technology minimally, right? But right now, because of the situation, we're not allowed to go back to the face-to-face setup. And so we have to maximize the use of technology, but at the same time, we have to be creative in making sure that students have access to the kind of materials that we produce or that we use in our classes. All right, so let us not forget that the focus is learning, and we have to be flexible in our teaching, right? So that's the center. We have to, again, put the learning process of our students at the center of our engagement. And So the question then is, what do we know about the success rate of students in face-to-face versus online teaching or versus online learning? Do you guys have any idea? I don't know if you guys were able to do some kind of survey in your classes or in the courses that you did last semester, but guess what? According to a research done back in 2010, um, because online learning, the success rate for online learning is actually only 50% compared to face-to-face, which is around 75 and higher. Okay, at the same time, online learning it's kind of like challenges or pose a lot of challenges to students so that the dropout rate for online learning is actually 20% higher compared to face-to-face. Okay, so these are some of the things that we need to consider when we're doing flexible teaching, when we're using technology in our work. All right, so let us proceed to another question that I would like to pose. Why might this new teaching and learning environment a challenge for some teachers? Okay, I don't know what you guys think, but it's definitely because of the banking model of education that has become normalized in many of our educational experiences, right? This is Paulo Freire in Brazil, basically his perspective, and he criticized the banking model of education. The banking model of education is basically happens when the teacher just deposits knowledge or information into the students, and from time to time, we withdraw, from those deposits. Somehow we're guilty of that, right? And education, therefore, has become normalized as an act of mere depositing. So I think we need to kind of change this attitude or perspective, considering that we are now in this kind of situation, which again invites us to rethink what education is, what teaching is, and what learning is, right? So this is the everyday experiences of the majority of Filipino students. We know that this is the reality. Many of our students usually sit um, here on this side of the classroom while the teacher stands in front of the classroom. It also is quite similar, right? So this kind of setup kind of normalized students as mere consumers of knowledge. And I think this kind of situation, again, puts the teacher as the sole authority, right, of information that students need to learn. However, we kind of like need to change this, considering that in flexible learning environments, the students have much freedom and the students are encouraged to learn on their own, right? Okay, so therefore, a shift in perspectives and teaching practices are needed, right? So this is really crucial at this point. So the current situation in teaching is teaching us to decenter our roles and authority as teachers, okay? And from a passive technician to a reflective practitioner. And this is something that I would like to highlight. And what does a practitioner, reflective practitioner do? We should be able to utilize a repertoire of understandings and actions to reframe a troubling situation so that problem-solving actions are generated. Okay, so this is the challenge. Again, teachers, we need to be reflective practitioners. If something happens, if there's a problem, we need to be evaluative, we need to be analytic, and this is actually a good way also to reinvigorate teaching, right? And at the same time, through being a reflective teacher, by being a reflective practitioner, we're able to find solutions to problems that actually come along the way. All right, so let's proceed to another important discussion. This is now the flexible learning environment, and I would like you guys again to rethink how education happens, right? So the center is the learner, and right now we need to reimagine um, the teacher and learner interaction, right? How does it happen? Is it through just the computer? Is it just through the cell phone? We also need to rethink on or about learner and content interaction. How do learners interact with content? Okay, will they be interacting with content through LMS, through Facebook posts, through modules that we have prepared for them. And we also need to, again, think about learner and learner interaction, because this is actually important. According to some studies, learner to learner interaction helps, a student succeed in online learning platforms. And we should also think about learner and the community of practice. Have we actually done this? Perhaps this is the best time to do this, right? Where we invite a target community of practice and for the students to interact. So for instance, if you're teaching nursing in the College of Nursing, perhaps you can invite somebody who is a practitioner to talk about their experiences of working right now amidst this pandemic. If you're teaching in the College of Engineering, you can also perhaps invite somebody who can talk about a particular topic that your students are actually interested. Or perhaps if you're you're in the College of Social Work, again, making sure that the students are able to interact with somebody in the community of practice. I think through the use of technology or through the use of videos and recordings, this is now very possible to happen. So I really encourage you guys to think and rethink about the way we do things in education, especially now that we are being challenged to do these things. All right. So in flexible learning environments, again, I would like to underscore that students have much freedom, and we should be able, and we should be willing as teachers, we should be willing to give that freedom to our students. And also, we should also think about redesigning the curriculum and materials, okay? Especially now that we will not be there physically present, to teach the students, right? And although technology is actually useful, like what we are doing right now, it cannot replace the physical presence of a teacher who is, there are many nonverbal cues that are useful when it's face-to-face, right? And also we need to reimagine assessment as well, because again, we will not be physically present to assess and monitor our students. In fact, during the previous presentations of Ms. Amphi and I think Arvin and the others, they highlighted the problem or the challenge of cheating, or perhaps like, I don't know, like perhaps like manipulating answers. These things are challenging. And so therefore we need to reimagine assessment. Also very important is the fact that we need to, again, focus or center student access. And when I say student access, I'm not just talking about student physically accessing technology or being able to get the materials, but at the same time, I'm actually referring to, like student access in terms of like, are they able to understand the materials that we produced or that students are trying to read on their own or learn on their own. So perhaps when we are writing our materials, we should be clear in our instructions. We can in fact provide certain diagrams perhaps or pictures to make sure that the students are able to really access the materials and learns the materials that they really need to learn. Okay. All right. So let us now proceed to another important characteristics of flexible learning. Again, this one encourages us to think about student engagement. How do we engage our students in flexible learning environments? Is it going to be just limited? Because again, some scholars have said that establishing teacher presence is very important when you're doing distance learning or when you're doing online teaching. And how do we manage feedback, right? So this one is also interesting and important. If we are using Google Documents, for instance, how do we manage feedback? Is there also an opportunity for students to do learner or peer feedback besides teacher and learner feedback? And at the same time, we need to think about managing and monitoring student work technology for intervening and observing. So for instance, here in the context of Hawaii, I do the placement test. And what we have done is to use Zoom both on the computer and the cell phone of the student, so we can monitor if the student is actually, not doing anything that will harm the integrity of the placement test. So, we have to explore the possibilities for intervening and observing students. it's not even just technology. We can also perhaps use cell phone, just to make sure that the students are learning and also able to access the materials that we are giving them. All right. So the questions to ask ourselves, I like to engage in questions, and hopefully this will also make you reflect as teachers, right? So how do COVID-19 and the transition to more flexible learning environments impact on how we evaluate student learning? Have we considered student needs, a needs analysis survey? That's something very important. So I usually do this at the beginning of the semester before my students come to my class. I send them a short survey through Google Form, and they would fill it out. And it's actually very useful. Perhaps you can also do this in your context. If not, find other ways through which you can receive some input from your students. The second, and I would like to highlight this, have we done learner training so that they get ready to use affordances? Sometimes we assume that our students are very adept in using technology because they're Generation Z, but that's not actually true. Um, Perhaps you should also do some kind of training for students who are familiar with Facebook. What are the affordances of Facebook besides posting pictures, besides sending messages? Perhaps there are actually other ways to make it work for them. Okay, what are the affordances of your LMS? What are the affordances of using Google Meet, Google Slides, Google Docs, and other apps that you're using in your classes? All right. Another important point to ask is, what are the alternatives to regular quizzes and problem sets? Okay, I think Ma'am Afi have already discussed this one. And number four, what would lab experiments look like in a flexible learning environment? And this is for those who are teaching, like sciences or STEM, right? And how do we make sure that students read and use reliable sources in this time of fake news, deep fakes, and trolls? And this question is very important for those who are in the humanities, in the social sciences, especially because it's so easy now to manipulate information online. For instance, you can publish a particular picture and create a text that come with the picture and claim that statement was made by this particular person, right? So these things need to be perhaps answered by us, but I don't think there are easy answers. But again, it also challenges us to reflect on the decisions that we make in our classrooms. All right. Now, I would like to push this idea of critical thinking much further. All right. So by inviting everyone to engage in critical assessment, I'm not so sure if most of you or some of you have heard about critical assessment, but there is actually such area in assessment. So from fixed or predetermined, because we usually create assessment, right, to negotiated assessment, where students actually provide input on how they are being assessed. So I know that authentic assessment is important, for performance-based assessment is also important, but perhaps this is the time to do negotiated assessment. Perhaps there is actually a room for it in your context, right? And through what mode can students best demonstrate learning? That's another question that we need to engage with. And in critical assessment, we have to consider non-traditional means of assessment, such as role-playing, skits, poetry, script writing, journaling, student-led conferences, and group projects, because these forms of assessments actually encourage collaboration and participation from students, right? So it's not just teacher created. At the same time, Shohami, a scholar in critical assessment, said that we should use multiple assessment procedures. And one of the things that she suggested is the use of portfolios. I'm pretty sure that many of you are familiar with portfolios, and I think portfolios are really, really good to use at this time, because this one is generated by the students themselves. So it's student-produced assessment. And there is also what we call self and peer assessment, which Ms. Afi has already discussed in the last session. And also perhaps you can do projects, observations, student reports on long-term projects, and of course tests. So multiple assessment procedures, not only one procedure, to make sure that the students are given multiple ways through which they can demonstrate their learning progress. All right. I hope you guys are still doing okay. And some of these ideas also have been presented by Sir Arvin in the past, but I would like again to encourage you to do these things. One is involve students in the process of deciding what types of tests or assessment tools will be used to measure. As long as you are present, as long as you are, of course, you have to make the decisions. It's not a laissez-faire type of dialogue where everything just goes. You have to be the decision maker still, but involve the students in the process of deciding what types of tests. That would be a good opportunity for the student to take part, to take responsibility in their learning process. Second is try to negotiate writing projects and assignment deadlines with students. I have done this in the past, and it doesn't mean that you're being, too relaxed. It's actually making sure that the students, again, when they submit, they're ready. At the same time, they will take responsibility for not being able to submit the papers or assignments or projects on the deadline. Okay. And then the third one is allow students to generate assessment criteria and scoring rubrics. I think Arvin has also done this in his context, and I was actually happy to see that because I thought this is really radical and not many teachers are able to do this in their own context. But again, this is an invitation for all of us, right? Perhaps there is a way to do this in your context. I know that there are some institutional limitations set by your, institutions, your departments or college, but again, try exploring these ideas. And then I have done the second to the last one, which is engage students in dialogue in regard to grade percentage distribution. Like in my context, I usually require students to submit 4 papers, and they are equally distributed, like 20%, right? However, the students actually made a point that the final paper should be longer because we had more time to write it. And in fact, they also were able to gather more information, and they applied their learning from writing paper 1 to paper 4. So that made me actually think about changing the way I distribute the grade percentage. And I think that is something that you can also perhaps explore in your own context. The last one is use former and current students' work in designing assessment materials. Of course, you can use them as models perhaps, or at the same time, you can use them as activity sheets for your students. So to make sure that, like the students see like works or outputs coming from past students, and it's easier perhaps for them to relate to the material that you're providing them. Okay, so here is how I explored alternative assessment from my own class. So I teach Philippine culture from a critical perspective here at the University of Hawaii. And one day or one lesson in our course is the Filipino experience of the overseas Filipino workers, sorry. And instead of like requiring them to write a 4-page essay, I required my students to do or produce a multilingual and multimodal text which express their creativity and criticality. And this is what they did. And I would say that this is actually really, really smart. In fact, if you look or examine the multimodal, multilingual text that they have produced, you can see how deeply the students understood the discussion. Here, for instance, hashtag katulong, poor too long. So they're playing with words there, servants for too long, right? And then servants, again, poor, they're poor. At the same time, too long, like help, so please help. And then of course they use images that are relevant to the Filipino-American diaspora experience in the US. A lot of Filipinos who came here in the US were plantation workers in pineapple plantation and also asparagus and grape plantations. And of course, nurses, there's a lot of nurses in the US. So this kind of material or assessment actually demonstrates that students learn, and also it shows that they're creative and very critical about what transpired or the material that we were discussing in class. And I hope you guys will also try to explore some of these critical assessment ideas. All right, so I'm almost done, and I hope that you guys are still there. So this time I would like to highlight the intersection between critical thinking and technology. and the need for critical digital literacy. Because you know what, right now, everything has converged, right, because of technology. So here, for instance, we have content and communication and also computing convergence in converging in media. At the same time, another way to represent that is actually the use of cell phone. Right now, it's possible to do banking through cell phone. You can do emails with your phone. You can even like pay or transact business through phones. I order my food through Uber Eats. Yeah, you can also hire a cab through Uber or other apps. So there are many ways through which technology has actually given us affordances. So it's very important as teachers that we engage in critical digital literacy. It is because, according to Livingstone, the digital landscape at present has not only converged, but actually also diverged, right? And it makes life or things more complicated, especially for those who are not very familiar with how technology works, right? I hope that this will somehow engage you into thinking that technology is very important, very useful, but we need to be careful in making sure or in using technology. So critical digital literacy basically says that when we navigate in digital spaces, we navigate through it fluidly between the ethical and personal, between the objective and subjective, and the creative and the critical. So sometimes we forget, you know, like in social media, for instance, we just post random um, fake news, perhaps, or picture, and we're not critical because for us, that's just a personal space. But we forget that we're actually teachers too, and we have an ethical responsibility, right? And so therefore, the constructive use of digital technology requires ongoing analysis and interpretation. I know that not all of us are comfortable with technology, but the current situation invites us to learn some more about technology. For instance, recently, because of stay-home policies here in Hawaii, I have found out that I can actually I learned how to edit videos, and now I have a YouTube channel. So, you know, like aside from that, I have explored other ways to screencast when uh, screencasting, basically with my image in front at the same time with the text here on my side, so that I can use it for my classes in the fall semester. So there are, you know, there are tutorial sessions on YouTubes that we can use to make sure that we're able to understand how technology works and we can use them productively in our teaching. And this one, critical digital literacy basically encourages us to make our practices more ethical and to avoid the exploitation and manipulation of others. Because again, um, technology can be very harmful. In fact, recently, for instance, Michael V, you guys are familiar with Michael V, there was this viral post by Inquirer.net that Michael V already died, but actually the Inquirer did not publish that, but somebody manipulated the images, you know, and curated it so that it looks real, so that the Inquirer eventually had to come up with a statement saying that we did not publish this. So it's so easy right now to become manipulated because of technology and because of fake news and because of so many trolls out there that want to take control of the discourse um, that go around us. Okay, so I hope that the session that Ryan will, I mean, Sir Rojan will do in the next session will be useful for you because somehow it will help you understand how technology works. All right. So this is critical digital literacy, and there are many, mechanisms or ways through which critical digital literate person um, it becomes possible, right? So one is code breaking. We have to understand how technology works, right? And meaning making. What is the meaning behind that? What is being shared? The kind of information that are being shared on the various platforms like Facebook, Google, if you're still using Yahoo, right, or YouTube. At the same time, it also involves like identity building, right? Reputation management, making sure that we know who's the persona behind the technology, or perhaps the kind of persona that we want to create for other people. Okay. It also, of course, involves analyzing, interrogating. The first thing that I usually do when somebody shares something interesting on Facebook is to ask, who is the author of this? Where is this published? So when I click on the link and there is no author, then I wouldn't be sharing that information, because I know that perhaps the goal is to just share misinformation, right? And then, of course, the most important thing is using and creating. Hopefully, we can make use of technology to make sure that our students' learning experiences right now still become meaningful and relevant. Hopefully, applying the critical thinking strategies that we learned from this session, and in order to create materials that are really relevant um, to the learning experiences of our students. All right. So are you guys are still there? I hope that this session has been um, useful. And I would like to end my presentation with this quote. If we are to succeed in educating our youth during these uncertain times, we need to think more critically about our curricular and pedagogical decisions so that our students, regardless of social and economic backgrounds, are given equal opportunities and flexible learning environments. That's very, very important to think about. All right. So I hope you guys are still there, and please do the 3-2-1 reflection for reflective teachers. Again, 3 things that I learned from this session. Hopefully you gain some insights from this session. The second is 2 things that I am still curious about. Yeah. And the first, and I mean, and the last one is 1 way that I plan to use my new knowledge. Please go to Padlet. This one here, the link is at the bottom. And also it's found at the bottom of the live stream on Facebook. All right. So these are some of my references, and daghang salamat, mahalo no ilua. That's how we say it in Hawaii. If you guys have questions, you can email me through my, of course, my email, jasonpa@hawaii.edu. You may also follow my work, my research, and my publications on ResearchGate. And I do have a YouTube channel now because of stay-home goals, right? I started editing videos. You can follow me on Dudung's World for my experiences of teaching and living in Hawaii, and also some educational content. In fact, a pre-recording of this session is already uploaded in my YouTube account for teachers who are not able to join this live session. All right, thank you so much. And I hope you guys are still doing okay over there. And I look forward to the question and answer portion. Thank you so much. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you so much. That was Dr. Jason Parba. Dr. Jason, thank you so much for your super abundant content and very substantial input about how we can develop further our being critical thinker, and how do we employ critical literacy in our flexible learning environment. Thank you so much, sir. So we continue with our next speaker on the creating or editing a video lecture using your mobile phones. Are you ready? So I would like to introduce to you our next speaker. Our next speaker is an affiliate faculty of Capital University, where he serves as a physical education instructor and education technology coordinator of the College of Education. He graduated at Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology with bachelor's degree in physical education. Right now, he is currently working his Master of Science in Physical Education at Mindanao State University, Marawi. Friends, our next speaker, Mr. Rogen V. Obinario. Sir Rogen.
Thank you for that, Miss Rose, and also to Dr. Jason Parba. And then for Dr. Jason Parba, thank you so much for sharing his expertise on how to employ critical thinking strategies for teaching flexible learning. And indeed, in this time of pandemic, we teachers are challenged to find new ways and solutions, such as this flexible learning. And Dr. Jason made mention also during his discussion was that constructive use of digital technology requires ongoing analysis and interpretations. As we all know that we teachers are more confident on teaching our students face to face rather than having it through online. Now, for this session, I'm going to be discussing about how to create a video or a lecture video, or maybe you could assign your students to create their output using a video. Since we are now uh, using the online learning and there is no face-to-face contact with the students. So let me just share to you my presentation. Just give me a minute. Oops, sorry, it's not the one. Okay. Are you guys seeing my presentation now? So this morning, I'm going to be discussing about more on creating and editing a video lecture using your mobile phone. As we all know, most of us, especially students, have their own cell phones, and they can connect to through the internet using a data or maybe a Wi-Fi. So when you employ critical thinking skills, actually, Dr. Jason Parba made mention about when you create a video, you have to answer the questions or essential questions such as the how, and the whys, and what, the where, and the when. So to give you a quick overview of my presentation this morning, uh, we'll have to define first what is a video editing, and then the steps in making a great smartphone video, introduction to the video application, which is we're going to use the Kinemaster, or others would say Kinemaster, but I would prefer to use the Kinemaster. And the last one is the application of the demonstration application. So I'm going to demonstrate to you guys or to you teachers, my fellow teachers, on how to use a mobile in creating a video. So let's discuss first about what is video editing. Well, according to Jared Nielsen, he made mention that video editing is the process of piecing together video clips, images, and sounds to create a movie. Now, why did I highlighted this one with a red color? Because these are the important materials that you need in order for you to create a video. So these are the raw materials. So it's important to have this one or save this one inside your uh, the memory card or the what do you call this one in your cell phones, or actually you can access your saved images or maybe videos through your Google account. Later on, I will show you on how to access your Google account. And then editing is sometimes called cutting. As we all know, if we when we watch movies, especially if there are takes, take one, take two, normally the director would say cut. Okay, so in fact, a lot of video editing is carrying this kind of saying. So they normally use this one during the when they try to film a video. All right. Now, these are the 5 steps in making a great smartphone video, according to John Clinton. So, one is to think about orientation, plan your content. Third is pay attention to your audio. Fourth one is pay attention to lighting. And the last one is review your video. Now, what is think about orientation? So, you have to be conscious. As we all know, when you use cell phones, when you try to video a certain thing or material, you have to be conscious on which way you would hold your phone. Is it horizontally or vertically? Well, probably if you're going to post a video in YouTube, the best way is you have to place your mobile phone in a horizontal position. All right. But for Facebook or Instagrams or maybe Snapchats, you can use the vertical. All right. And then the second one is, of course, you plan your content. Just like what Dr. Jason Parba has discussed a while ago about critical thinking. So you have to make sure that you are able to imply the critical thinking skills in your video. So you plan your content. You create specific questions or prompts to answer, or you can have a script if it is applicable, or remember to look directly into the camera. Same as when you are talking to your friend, right? So, or to a person. When you talk to a person, normally you would look at his or her face. Because if not, then maybe you're not interested on listening or maybe speaking to that person. And then it's also helpful to plan a time limit of your video. So if your video is quite too long, then probably maybe some of the students would find it or they may get bored or parang uh, they tend to switch to another link or to get that video. And then most important is you have the guidelines to make to make you feel more comfortable. And just you can also cut down some of those video clips that are not needed or necessarily to be included in your video presentation. Okay, the third one is paying attention to audio. I know most of us, although there are some, they have their own recording studio wherein they can minimize the noise or noise reduction. But for us teachers or normal teachers, or especially in my case, I only have my cell phone. I don't have any studio. Basically, you have to consider the environment. So when you record your audio, when you try to place your audio in your video lecture, so you have to make sure that it's quiet or it can be clear, it can be heard clearly, and then there is enough sound or good sound during the finished version. Okay, so especially cell phones, or if you're using a headset, then it's also a good way of recording your what you call this on your voice. And you have to practice also your voice modulation and how it would sound during the video presentation, because it's a the sound is very important because it can also catch the viewer's attention, because if your voice is quite glitchy, then maybe or some of the audience may not be able to understand properly on what you are trying to say. So it's important to practice your voice modulation on uh, how can you be heard by the audience through your video. All right. So am I too fast or so can I let's proceed now to my next slide. Okay, the fourth one is pay attention to lighting. Although smartphones can automatically adjust the video image, especially if there are effects. So what if you are in an environment, if it's too dark or it's too much sunlight? So there's a need for you to consider these things. But don't worry, in this application, which I'm going to demonstrate later, you can actually adjust the brightness, the contrast, and the saturation of your video or the video clip that you're going to edit. Okay. And then the fifth one, of course, you have to review your video. So you watch your video footage over and over again, and then try to see if there are some glitches or there's a need for you to edit. Then you can proceed and edit your video before presenting it to your audience or to your students. All right. Now I'm gonna be just a parang short overview of the application that I'll be using later on. So you can download the Kinemaster. So it is downloadable for the iOS and Android devices. So you can go for on my part, I go to the Play Store for Android, and then just search for Kinemaster. And then Kinemaster is according to the Finances Online, is considered as a fully featured and professional video editing app. When you download this one, you can actually, for if you're going to purchase, then you can have limited access of their if from their stores or the assets. But um, if you're going to use the trial, there are some limitations. Although you are only given 7 days for the trial, you can use their other effects. But after that one, you need to subscribe. But don't worry, you can still use your Kinemaster app despite of not registering or purchasing the application itself. But if you want to purchase, then when you're going to purchase it, that one by per month, or you're going to pay per month, so that will be 195 pesos. Okay, and for annually, so you can purchase that one or subscribe for 1,150 pesos per year. So I think if you're going to purchase this one, much better if you have annually, because there's no need for you to go back again and do the subscription, do the paying. All right, so okay, these are the steps on how to download the KineMaster. So you go to App Store, then you type in the KineMaster application and then tap install. So once you have installed it, you will be redirected to its home screen. So this is the landing screen or the home screen of the KineMaster. Okay, so I'm gonna be demonstrating to you on how to use this application. So but before that, these are the steps in creating a project. So normally you would press this red button with the plus sign. So once you press that one, it will lead you to the next part where we're in. You're going to select an aspect ratio. It's either 16 by 9 or 9 by 16. 16 by 9 is what we call as the horizontal version. We're in, you're going to hold your cell phones or mobile phones horizontally, and then the 9 by 16, you have to hold your cell phone, or the output will be in a vertical version, and then for the 1 by 1, so it's just a square type of video wherein there is a limited space. I mean, there is enough space for each side. But don't worry. The best thing that you need to do is to use the 16 by 9, because it's much more easier for the audience to see your video. All right. So these are the types or the aspects of ratio. Okay. Let me just proceed to my next slide. All right. So the main settings tab. Just a quick preview of the main settings tab. So you have here on the upper left, you have the back button, the number 1, and then below that one is where you could see the undo. If you could find some glitches in your, or maybe you mistakenly added a video, or you want to undo your project, then you can press that one button. And then we also have the redo, and then the capture camera button. So the next one, the fifth one, uh, it's what we call as the settings. And then the sixth, you can expand actually. This is the normal on how you could see, like, or how you view KineMaster. But when you press this one, it will automatically lead you to another new interface of this KineMaster. But later on, I will show you or what's the difference between the two. And then the seven one is it lets you jump from the start or end of your video. So it's quite very tiring for you to scan your especially if the video is for 4 minutes and then you have to scroll your cell phone. So much better if you press this one below. So it could lead you to either jump to the start, the end, or in the middle of your video clip. And then next one is the big circle here. Okay, can you follow? The big circle is what we call as the import media. This is where you could browse your memory card from your cell phone or mobile phone, or even access your Google account. So you are going to add the video clips or the images or the sounds that you want to produce in your video. And then the next one is the access. Uh, it's the asset store. So if you haven't purchased yet the application itself, or you weren't able to subscribe, then of course there are limitations on how you could access the effects or of the assets of this application. So this is the one way on how you could access those different other effects that you could also use in your video editing. And then notice here that there's a time, so the timeline. So this is your timeline frame. So this is where you could play back your the clip that you want to edit. So you could swipe that one. And then the black one, this black thing here. So it is where the playback monitor, wherein you could see or which part of that video or image that you want to edit. And then the last one, this red circle just inside this one, the import media, the bigger one. This is where you could access the camera of your phone. So actually you can record, and then automatically it will be inserted in the interface of your Kinemaster. All right. So to give you a quick overview of this application, so I'm going to be discussing about the home screen on how to create a new and to create a new project and select ratio, the editing interface, so the left hand side buttons, selecting media and import footage, color filter, cutting of footage, layers button, adding audio and just volume, audio fade in and fade out, video fade in and fade out, the transition, and the last one is to export and save it into your mobile and get ready for your presentation. So just give me a minute or two. I just arranged my devices here so that I could connect my presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Rogen Obinario, for guiding us how to utilize our mobile cell phones as a tool in our teaching and learning in flexible learning. So with that, no, mag-subscribe ta 190, 195 pesos per month, or 1,190, 150 a year for that subscription for the Kinemaster application. So dapat our qualifications and requirement na dapat tech savvy ang teachers, ang faculty. Okay, so we now proceed to our question and answer. Here is a question addressed to Dr. Jason Parba from Dr. Ephraim Vitelio of MSU IIT. How do we ensure quality assurance in flexible learning?
Right. Wow, that's actually a really, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, okay. Wait, sorry, I see Sorojan here. Oh, okay. So, well, how do we ensure quality in terms of like, we're talking about assessment here, right? How do we ensure quality during this pandemic? So I think Miss Amphi has discussed this before, and also who was the other one? I think we have to, again, make sure that although we're doing flexible learning environment, we don't sacrifice quality in terms of like checking our students' learning progress. And you can do this by aligning your student learning outcomes together with your assessment and the materials that you created, and making sure that the students demonstrate all the learning outcomes that you want them to demonstrate at the end of the course, at the end of semester, regardless of the modality that they're delivering it. So the notion of flexible learning also encourages us to be more human, or perhaps humane, in dealing with the kind of like challenges that the students encounter, because before being a teacher, we're actually human beings, and we have brothers, we have children, and we know that this is very challenging. The situation right now is very challenging. So it's hard to answer your question, but yeah, that's all I can think of right now. I don't know if the others might have other ideas on how to address this question. Perhaps the other people who are in the group might be able to provide more insights as well. But ma'am, I was curious because earlier people have been messaging me that they were not actually able to see my screen, only my voice after we came back. Hello?
Hello, ma'am. Sir, okay naman, sir. There's your face is actually here, sir. So, okay
Yeah.
lang po.
So after nagbalik ka, sir, it was already okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As per monitor, sir, na okay naman, sir. Naraman yung face.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, thank you.
Anyway, they can review the video. They can review the video. We'll be posting this to YouTube and for later time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Because I have a pre-recorded also video of this presentation. If the others were not able to view the entire video because it was interrupted, you can also go to my YouTube channel as well to watch the video. So that's another way to engage in the material. All right. Anything else? Can I share my screen, ma'am, from the 3, 2, 1 reflection? Is that okay?
Please. Yes, please.
All right. So I would like to share now my screen. This is the result of the 3, 2, 1 reflection. And I appreciate everyone who went to Padlet. So for those who are not familiar with Padlet, this is actually a free, you can sign up for free. So, and then you can create something like this to make your lesson or course more interactive so the students can respond to prompts in real time. So I'm happy to find out that many teachers have responded. They posted some things that they learned, and some people have also asked questions in there. So for instance, they said, let's see, how long do we deal or have to deal with the situation with the presence of COVID-19? I really don't know, ma'am or sir, whoever posted this question, but here in the US, there's a promise somehow. I mean, the results of the test have been promising, and hopefully by the end of this year or the start of next year, we will have the vaccine. So we'll hopefully go back to a certain kind of normalcy by the start of next year, or perhaps by the end of this year. So let's hope that it's going to be positive. Oh, this is a good question. She's curious, or whoever posted this, like, how do you involve students in rubrics crafting? That's a really good question. And I have done this a couple of times in my classes because I come from a critical pedagogy perspective. So in critical pedagogy, we empower the students to participate or to take responsibility in their learning. So what I do is to actually group them into like small groups, okay? And then after that, you have to explain to the students why you're doing it. And then of course somebody will have to take notes, and you can start with, okay, this is now how you will be graded, and what are the different criteria, right? And what do you think will get a 5? What do you think, what kind of performance will get a 4? What kind of performance will get a 3 or 2 and 1? So the students generate ideas, brainstorm, and at the same time, of course, you will be there to facilitate the discussion. And although the groups will have different responses, and you try to find the common ground. So you negotiate with the students. So that's a good question. And the other one is some elements of critical digital literacy. So I think Sir Rojan has already tackled that, the importance of technology. So Sir Rojan, would you like to respond to this question? Using green screen and legitimacy of the application. I don't understand if that's a question. Oh, this is again another important point. I am curious with regard to this virtual approach. Is it effective way of teaching? Well, some of learners, they don't have any facilities. Yes, again, whoever posted this, during my presentation, I highlight the fact that not all students have access to technology. Not all students may be able to access the materials on their own. Like they might not be able to understand the materials because it's written in a complicated language or complex language. So we have to always think about these things when we choose the modalities and at the same time when we create materials for our teaching. Yeah, okay. Ma'am, are there other questions there?
Okay, from Marilu A. Gamas. From Marilu A. Gamas, can you share techniques on implementing CT in a large class, like typical in our Filipina?
All right, so yeah, another important context to talk about is the fact that in the Philippines, the classes are really big, right? But then it should not limit us from doing or engaging in critical thinking activities in our classroom. So another, I think you have done this in your own context, you know, create small groups in your class and distribute different questions that target the critical thinking among our students. That's one way of doing it. But during this pandemic, it's a different situation. So another way of, I would say very important to do during this time, because some students will choose synchronous session, while other students might perhaps choose asynchronous, while the others might do the modular or the hard copy thing, right? Because it's flexible learning environments. So perhaps like whatever, if you have the number of students in particular platform or modality, that's where you create those small groups. And again, I would encourage learner to learner interaction, in spite of the fact that, you know, we are now encouraging social distancing. Learner to learner interaction is very essential because it affects student success in learning. At the same time, it actually has a strong impact on students' mental health. So we should encourage student collaboration, even if like they're away from each other, and you can actually collaborate in Google Doc. If not, let them call their classmates through using their cell phone, right? Or if not, message each other on Facebook. Perhaps there's a way to group students and Facebook, because Facebook is free in the Philippines, right? Except when you don't have a load, you cannot send pictures. So again, explore the affordances of these technologies and then find a way to engage students in critical thinking, in spite of the fact that the current situation is really challenging. Yeah. I can hear the other people. Okay, ma'am, can I also share my screen? Because again, the other people have been, I mean, another colleague of mine said that they were not able to see the entire presentation, only my voice. So hold a sec, sorry. Let me share my screen. This is chat. Any other questions that you guys might have? Okay, so this is, I posted a pre-recording of my presentation. It's on YouTube, and the title is the same, Employing Critical Thinking Strategies for Teaching in Flexible Learning Environments. So for those who were not able to see my face, they said they were not able to see my face when I came back because of the interruption. You can actually, and also the PowerPoint, it's there. I pre-recorded, I did a practice, but it's actually great because I recorded the whole thing through Zoom, and I edited it through iMovie, and it's still clear and it's still very useful if you guys wanna listen to the discussion fully. Okay, it's there without the interruption, it's also there. All right. So I just want to share that important, another source of information that you guys might be able to find useful. Okay. Are there other questions?
As of this time, Dr. Jason and Professor Rujen, we don't have any comment from the chat box of our
All
Facebook
right.
and the Zoom. It seems that all our participants have well understood your presentation, and uh, except for comments, very commendable comments and appreciation of your presentation and their
Thank you,
greetings.
ma'am. I
Okay.
really appreciate everyone for participating. Again, thank you so much to my friends and colleagues at Capital University, to friends at Xavier, MUSD, COC, and all the other colleges, of course, Capital University, who joined us today and for engaging in this conversation, because critical thinking, a lot of people are, I mean, some people are scared to engage in critical thinking. So again, I appreciate everyone. Mahalo nui lua. Is this the end of our session?
Uh,
Ma'am?
uh, Dr. Jason, I think Professor Rojun would like to present additional presentation.
Sure. Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, loud and yes, po, loud and
Okay.
clear.
So as you can see on the screen, it's actually the view of my cell phone. So I've used the screen share, streaming in order for this to share this one. So let's go on to the Kinemaster, the video app. So I hope you have already downloaded this app so that you will be able to follow on how to edit a video using the Kinemaster. So first you're going to click on Kinemaster. Okay. All right. So this is the home screen. So as you have noticed, I have already finished some products that you could see on the right side. These are the videos that I've edited. And then let's start on creating a video. So all you have to do is you press on this big red one, and then it will lead you to select an aspect ratio. So since this is for a video lecture, it's much more easier and much better if you're going to use the 16:9, so that the audience or the learners will be able to see your videos clearly. All right, so select that one. Okay, so as you can see here, these are my files inside my mobile phone, so the SD card. And as I mentioned a while ago, you could also access your Google account files. So by just simply clicking on the cloud storage, you can see here on the upper right. So notice that you can add your account in the Gmail through Gmail, especially if you have saved videos or maybe an image or a sound that is stored in your Gmail account. Okay, so let's go back. Try to close this one. So let's try to select a certain. Okay, let me just search. Okay, how about this one? It's okay. Oops. Okay. So this is the video clip that I have selected for my presentation. This is just an example. So as you can see, you can tap or swipe the clip that you selected. So you could probably start at the end or start at the beginning. Now, I made mention a while ago about the asset store or marketplace. So it's located on the right portion here, just store. When you press that one, So these are actually the additional effects that you want to include in your video editing or for Kinemaster. So you need to purchase this one in order for you to use this. So it's in premium. So I'll just close this one. Oops, sorry. Not responding for a while. Okay. So select. Mhm. Okay, let's start from the beginning. So tap and swipe the video clip. As you can see, it moves from right to left. And then you can also pinch to zoom the clip. It widens the video clip. Or if you find it more, if you find the video too much length, so you could reduce that one actually by pinch to zoom. You can stretch the video or you could zoom out. All right. And then you could also say, for example, you want the order of the presentation of your movie clip is not in a sequence. Actually, you could, all right, let's have first split a playhead. I cut this one first. You can actually swipe this one. So by tap and holding, and then you could swipe their order of presentation. Okay, so let me just redo that one. Uh, all right. And then next one is on the color filter. So for the color filter, all you have to do is click on the clip that you have selected for editing. And then as you can see on the right side, so you could see there the color filter. So once you press that one, so it actually leads you to some filter effects there. Okay, so since I'm using only a trial version, so I could only get the basic ones. So not the premium, although there are, okay, here. So these are the basic effects which can be used in your video or in your movie clip. So let's go back. So I've demonstrated a while ago on how to cut a footage. So uh, the first one was you have to click the clip or the video clip, and then as you noticed here, you could see that Caesar icon. So you could press that one, or once you press the trim to left of playhead, there. So the first one is trim to left of playhead. So once you press that one, automatically it deletes the left portion of your movie clip. So you press that, and then this will, okay. So that will happen. So I have to undo. If you, sorry. If you press again the trim to right, so basically it just deletes the right portion of your movie clip. So click here, and then that one, there. All right. And then when you press the split at playhead, so automatically it divides the clip. So maybe you could add some transitions or some effects, or maybe you could properly delete that one. So once, if you want to delete this movie clip that you have cut using the scissors icon, you can actually press the delete icon here on the left side, the one with the trash bin sign. So it automatically deletes the clip that you have selected. All right, now let's go on to the layers. Now, for the layers, there are some different features. You can actually add a media, an effect, overlay, a text, or a handwriting. So you could place this multi this what you call this one, this saved video or images on top of your video that you want to edit. So say for example, let me just scroll this one here. Okay. So say for example, I will be discussing about the different components of physical fitness, and then I also want to have a certain kind of a narrator for that particular presentation. So what I did is you go to the layer and then select on media, and then you choose the type of video or the clip that you want to be included in your presentation. So there, and then you can actually resize this one so that it would fit into your presentation. All right. Now, you have to make sure that when you're going to edit, if you want to include to finish the entire video, you have to adjust your movie clip. All right, there. So once you play this one, all right, I hope if you could follow the screen share. So notice that there's a moving video here at the center point. Okay, so it's actually explaining the different parts or the different components of physical fitness. Okay, let me just stop that one. Now, if you want to lower the volume of the video, you could just simply click on the video and then press on this audio sign, and then you could reduce. All right. Now, talking about audio fade in, fade out. So this is how it looks like. So settings, you go to settings, and as you can see, there's this option for audio. And then you just have to enable the audio fade in and audio fade out, or maybe you could select only one. It's up to you. Double click on that one. All right. And then you have to um, manipulate on the number of seconds wherein your video is going to appear or fade in, and the number of seconds that your clip would fade out. So let's try to see. Let me just delete this one. Okay. Nope. For a while. No. Let me just cut this one. Right here. Cut. And right for a while. I know, sorry. And then for the video, so basically there's no audio, right? Uh, for the video, let me just show you how to fade in and fade out. So by selecting through the settings and go to video and enable the video fade in and fade out. So you will see the difference now. So when you play the video, so that's fading in. So as soon as it ends, and then it fades out. And then how about the transition? Now for transition, all you have to do is just click on the clip, and then once you have split that one, split, when you try to pinch and zoom, notice that there's a plus sign in the middle of it for both clips because I have cut the video. So when you press that one, automatically it will lead you to transition effects. So you could choose here of its effects. So let's just say the classic transition, zoom in and zoom out. Oh, crossfade. Okay, let's try to play this one. And then let's try to see the effect. Why is not working? Transition. Okay, let me just try this one. It's just too fast. Okay, can you see the heart? So that's actually the transition. And then after this one, once you're done with the video, then you can export and save it in your mobile device by pressing the arrow key on the upper right. So when you press that one, it will lead you to select or export and share, and then you could select the resolutions for better quality, then choose the FHD, and then the frame rate. So basically I'll use the 30 or cinema. Now, if you've used a higher resolution, then definitely it would lead you to a higher MBs. So as you can see on the lower part here, it adjusts. Okay, lower. Since my video is quite short, or that movie clip is quite short, so the MB here is just quite small. But if you are going to take a longer ones or 2 to 3 minutes, then definitely it will increase. So it will add to additional storage from your memory card or through your cell phones. So once you export that one, then you can already play and share your video. So those are just the basics on how to use Kinemaster in video editing. But you have to make sure that when you do this one, again, as what Dr. Jason Parba have said, that we should also apply that critical thinking strategies in order to, in making this video. All right. So if you have questions, and then see. So that's it for me now. So if you have other questions, just feel free to comment or on how to download this app or how to use. Wah, lagi.
Professor Rojan, are you through?
Yes po, I'm done with my presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Rojan. That was so overwhelming. Thank you for guiding us and walking us through the Kinemaster video editing, which is very essential in our teaching, as we also would like to explore our intersection on critical and digital literacy. So as of
Yes.
this time, we do not have questions on our chat box. Perhaps we now our participants are still lingering on how we can explore this kind of application, and perhaps we can also ask our IT experts in our institution on how to go through with this application. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Okay po.
So we have there our very
Sorry.
uh, commendable resource persons for this 8 days seminar. We have Dr. Jason Parba and Professor Rojan Obinario for that overwhelming and presentation. Thank you for the gift of person and for sharing your expertise with us.
Welcome po.
You're welcome, ma'am, and everyone at SHED.
Thank you
So
so
once
much.
again, our expected output for our asynchronous workshop this afternoon is we are going to enhance the course module to deploy the flexible learning techniques. I'm sorry, for our workshop later, we are going to create a video lecture using our mobile phone that facilitate critical thinking. So please upload your output on our LMS link posted on the screen. Once again, we are reminding the participants to register on the link provided on the screen also for you to get your certificate of attendance, and for you to have your certificate of completion, you have to download your output on the workshops. So that's from day 1 to day 7. Today is day 8. So better late than never. So upload
Wala po.
your output now. So once again, the team will start to check and monitor your workshop submission starting today. So for tomorrow, our schedule on our webinar for day 9 is moving face-to-face techniques to flexible learning techniques and developing high instructor presence. So during the webinar, participants are requested to have with them their syllabus, their course modules. What are our expected output for tomorrow? Participants will consider some flexible learning techniques in their course modules to develop high instructor presence. So with that, I would like to congratulate everyone for their patience and their attentive participation in our webinar series day 9. So in behalf of the CHED Region 10, the Technical Working Group, thank you speakers, Dr. Jason Parba and Professor Rujin Obinario for your expertise. Once again, good morning, stay safe and stay healthy everyone. See you tomorrow.